But the next one I like a lot more. The Redskins at the Browns. Browns are favored by 7. This opened up at 4. So there's a lot of action coming in on Cleveland. So who do you like in this game?
I like Cleveland for 1 to 3 units right now. It depends on the injury report, but if you just look at this matchup, this is either going to be like a Browns blowout or Washington's going to keep it close and the Browns are going to win by a field goal. And I have a lot more faith that it's going to be a blowout. Sorry to my Washington fans and friends who might be watching this. But I just think even though Washington's defense can pressure Baker Mayfield, which is one of his weaknesses, I just don't think they're going to be able to cover the receiving core long enough for that pressure to matter too much, save for maybe a couple instances. Odell Beckham Jr. should be able to cook whoever he goes up against. And then you got Jarvis Landry on the other side, who's been a reception machine. You got the 2 tight ends in to help against the pass rush if you need it. And we also have, Harrison Bryant, I thought looked good on Thursday, along with Austin Hooper not getting a ton of catches, but he's pretty well-rounded. So I feel like those pass-catching weapons are going to be able to make a difference for Mayfield. And I also think this is a little more of a Kareem Hunt game than a Nick Chubb game because Washington's good against the run, but I think that they'll be able to get stuff moving maybe on the outside with Hunt. But really, the main reason that I like the Browns in this one is Washington's offense is bad. They don't have anything right now at all except Terry McLaurin. Like Dwayne Haskins, he could eventually grow into something, but his offensive line is terrible. His starting tight end is Logan Thomas, who dropped like 4 passes last week. It felt like they glanced right off his hands. That's fine, whatever. But then now you're also talking about Brandon Sheriff's not going to play, so you're losing your best offensive lineman who wasn't playing well anyway. So you're relying on Schweitzer to come in as a backup for an offense that's averaged 3.5 points in the second half so far this year. I just have no faith that Washington's going to be able to do anything on offense. I'll be looking at if Greedy Williams or Mac Wilson come back, then I'm going to be even more gung-ho about the Browns. But, until we see something out of this Washington offense, I just can't imagine them covering against the Browns, who looked really good against the Bengals defense on Thursday night and really should have covered that game if not for our good friend Backdoor Joe Burrow.
that was a wild ride, like 2 times going down the field. That was awesome. I actually I was texting back and forth with one of my best friends, Dave, who's on our show together for the fantasy review, and he gave his condolences after the Browns scored a touchdown. And I texted him back. I'm like, wait, there's a little bit more time. let's see what happens. And the Bengals got the backdoor, which is nice. I like the Browns here quite a bit. My stance is if in the NFL, if you can't block, you can't win, and you probably can't cover. And the Redskins can't block right now. Under normal circumstances, you could say, okay, maybe they can survive with Sheriff and then Morgan Moses and their center. The right side of their offensive line is pretty good under normal circumstances, but Sheriff is going to be out. So the Redskins offensive line, I think, is by far right now, considering the injury, is the worst in the NFL. And they're going against Myles Garrett, Sheldon Richardson, Olivier Vernon, all those players who are good. The Browns should dominate the trenches on that side of the ball. So I think the Browns should control this game. And you're right, the Redskins can get some pressure on Mayfield, but I think the Browns offensive line is better this year. So it's not going to be like last year where they had Greg Robinson starting a left tackle. They'll at least give Mayfield a chance to get some protection. And then, last week I remember you saying that the Redskins had no answer for Hopkins. And I feel like it's the same thing with Odell Beckham and also the tight ends, like you were talking about. So I think this is going to be a blowout. I really can't see the Redskins competing, especially with the Browns having more time to prepare.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel like a good matchup. I feel like if Sheriff's healthy, then you can at least argue all right, they got one good side of the offensive line. Maybe they can hold up enough. But yeah, this just doesn't feel like it's weird because you feel like they match up better against the Browns than they do against the Cardinals, but they may perform even worse just because I don't know. This just does not feel like a good game for Washington.
If the Redskins had lost to the Eagles and they were 0-2 right now, I think this line would be higher, So I think that's something else to keep in mind. We had a quick question. I want to get to this. Where do you rank Devontae Freeman as a waiver wire pickup this week? I'm not sure if Freeman starts for the Giants. Like they were comfortable with Wayne. I saw a report saying they were comfortable with Wayne Gallman as their backup. I know he wasn't active last week. But that's because Barkley was playing, and I think Gallman's going to start. And I think Freeman, like, it's kind of like Leonard Fournette, where he has to learn the offense. So I think, I would pick up Freeman just if you had the roster space, but I'm not very convinced that he's going to get the carries over Gallman. What do you think, real quick?
Yeah, I think Freeman's the type of guy who should eventually emerge as the leader, if he's up to snuff with his conditioning and everything. But I think he's going to have to be eased in, like he hasn't played since last year. He hasn't been in camp, and I'm sure he's been keeping in shape. I'm sure there's no doubt about that. But like you said, he has to learn the offense. So I could see a very frustrating split between Dion Lewis, Wayne Gallman, and then a few carries early for Devontae Freeman. So I would pick him up, but I think if you're desperate for running back help, like my dad is, you definitely have to consider him. But if you're kind of like, oh, he'd be my fifth running back, like, maybe try to capitalize on some other longer term plays there, or shore up at another position.
Yeah, I have Barkley in one league, so I might make the move, even though I don't like it too much. Probably try to get Mike Davis.